Why I hate name the trait. This is gonna be a stupid fucking video.
Name the trait is widely considered to be the gold standard of vegan argumentation.
I haven't seen an argument demonstrating that there's a morally substantive difference between a human and an animal that would justify taking away something like the right to life from an animal. So can you name a morally substantive difference?
My question to you would be, if we swap all the traits true of animals to match those of humans, is there any trait that once switched would justify making humans into hamburgers?
Oh no, we're doing the name the trait game. This is like the impossible to defeat veganism argument.
But should we continue to employ it so often? Does it ever actually work? Today I'm sharing why I hate name the trait, why I think we should move on, and how it harms and hinders the vegan message. Before
This is the most stupid fucking thing you could possibly say. How the fuck does it harm the vegan message? You're like, it's so stupid. It's literally an argument that tests whether or not you can justify eating meat without taking away human rights. How in the fuck could that possibly harm the vegan message? It's literally what the fucking vegan message is about. Holy shit, that's stupid.
Before we get into the video, I want to clarify that I'm questioning the utility of name the trait in the context of effective vegan advocacy, not philosophical debates. I have seen
Joey hardly ever uses name the trait. It's kind of weird how she showed a clip of him.
YouTubers like Ask Yourself and Vegan Gains wield name the trait effectively to highlight the inconsistencies of their debate opponents. However, in street outreach, it just doesn't work. The philosophical debate is to test logical consistency, and the goal of vegan advocacy is to inspire and influence someone to go vegan. With the latter goal in mind, name the trait fails, and this video explores.
Where's the evidence for that? If you're going to claim name the trait fails to make anybody go vegan, where's the fucking evidence?
Why? Let's begin with the fundamentals. Name the trait originated with Ask Yourself, and I'll let him explain it here.
My case for veganism is pretty simple. I would say that if you hold the position that it's okay to stab an animal to death for food, it's not okay to stab a human to death for food, that there has to be some difference between the two that actually justifies that difference of treatment. So I would ask you, what is it that's true of the animal that if it were true of the human would justify stabbing the human to death for food?
When he describes it, it sounds great, logically sound, rock solid. But does name the trait propel carnists down the vegan path, or is it more likely?
This is just such a weird claim because when you go down the name the trait dialogue tree, you start talking about how, okay, well, this trait would lead to humans being holocausted or humans being tortured and eaten for food. Like, if she's claiming there's a lack of welfare, discussion about welfarism, there's a fair bit of it when you run name the trait and go through the dialogue tree.
To backfire. My primary issue with name the trait is that you're trying to guide people toward a certain conclusion, but you end up doing the opposite. The goal is to highlight that we're similar to animals, so why are we asking people to enumerate our differences?
Because then you run the reductio and show that they're not, those differences are unsubstantive. Like, she literally doesn't understand name the trait.
Imagine my goal was to persuade you to marry your girlfriend, and to do that, I asked you to list all of her negative traits. I can say the point is to show you that none of those negative traits would warrant a breakup in the hopes that you'll be persuaded to propose, but we can see that it would have the opposite effect. Instead of thinking, oh, she isn't quite—
Where's the evidence that it has the opposite effect?
ambitious enough, but that's okay because I love her. You would think, wow, she's not ambitious. Do I really want to be with an apathetic underachiever for the rest of my life? I'm willing to bet that by the end of that conversation, you would be less likely to propose.
I think it's better to I feel like almost let them make a positive case for what matters, rather than inviting them to do the very human rationalizing thing to find a reason why they shouldn't care.
Highlighting our differences creates more differences and makes it harder for non-vegans to empathize with animals. Instead, we should emphasize our similarities.
There is literally no evidence for this claim. Like, what she's saying doesn't even make any fucking sense because she's ignoring the fact that you run down the dialogue tree.
Ask people if animals shiver when they get cold, if they experience hunger like we do, if they can feel emotions like happiness, sadness, anger, and fear. When we elucidate our similarities, we allow people to empathize with animals, and from that empathy comes the desire to avoid stabbing animals for a sandwich. The vegan position has nothing to do with viewing animals and humans as the same. There are diverse opinions on what the vegan position is, but most people use the standard definition, which is to exclude harm toward animals
That is a stupid definition. It leads to contradictions. The modern definition should be granting human rights to animals.
Animals as far as practicable and possible. You can also use a rights-based framework, which is that animals should have negative rights, or some vegans say that animal rights are a logical extension of human rights. Vegans differ in how they view animals in relation to humans. Some vegans think that animals and humans are equivalent, but a lot of vegans think that humans are above animals, but that still doesn't justify humans killing animals for comfort and convenience. I personally don't think it matters. The degree to which someone values someone else should not determine.
Well, how the hell do those moral views not matter when it comes to arguing about veganism? Like, you're literally talking about arguments that would go down a utilitarian...
whether that individual is granted rights. If you gave me the choice to kill my sister or a random person, I would kill the rando because I value my sister more highly. That doesn't mean the other person shouldn't have the same rights as my sister. Rights should be granted based on objective characteristics like sentience, not personal value systems. Name the Trade becomes so invested in the non-vegan's value system.
That makes no sense. By nature, it would be... If you're granting rights, those rights are being granted based on your own subjective values. I don't know how the fuck she can say rights are granted based on objective values. They can't be. You're basing it on your own subjective values. Some of those values might be objectively provable, like whether or not someone has a consciousness, but that's still a subjective value.
And I understand why in the context of debates, but during vegan advocacy, you want to show that the animals deserve rights whether the non-vegan thinks so or not. They deserve rights because they're conscious and cognizant, because they have unique personalities, and because it's not their fault that they were born into the body of a chicken instead of a human. A human's personal value system should not determine whether or not animals deserve rights.
That's okay, well, that's literally impossible. Your value system, like, rights have to be granted, and your value systems determine whether or not rights are granted.
Leaders also use the idea that vegans think humans and animals are equal as a way to discount veganism.
I don't think any argument can be made that animal lives are as important as human lives. And if you really, truly believe that, if you really, truly, in your heart, believe that an animal life is important as a human life, then
I have no idea why she's playing this clip of Joey. Joey didn't even attempt to debate Tristan, and he never ran Name the Trade. So what the fuck does this clip have to do with the subject of the video?
I believe that there is something, and I don't mean this in an offensive way, I don't believe that you really think that.
Name the Trade is confusing. When you're doing vegan advocacy, you're not talking
Name the Trade is not confusing. The people you're arguing with are just stupid.
To people who understand the intricacies of debates. You're talking to the average human. Average humans have IQs between 85 and 115. You also need to consider that just talking about veganism makes people evil.
Like, you could, like, if you're gonna argue that people are too stupid to understand Name the Trade, I mean, you could argue most people are too stupid to talk about veganism, period. Because, like, again, whether you use a tactic like Name the Trait or some other tactic, you're making some sort of comparison between humans and animals that somebody has to end up understanding. Name the Trade is just one way to do that, and I don't see it being any easier or more difficult making that comparison with Name the Trade versus any other means. So, like, this is an argument against doing vegan activists, period. If you think somebody's too stupid to understand Name the Trade, like, I genuinely don't understand how you could argue about veganism with them, period.
Even dumber.
Trees are fascinating. I've heard people say, well, the mouse has a beating heart, and the tree does not, or plants do not, and animals do. And I said to myself, well, let me think this through. If you cloak a tree, does it not suffocate?
Average level intelligence plus motivated reason.
Her example of low intelligence is Neil deGrasse Tyson, a physicist who just bullshits and lies during vegan debates?
Makes it very difficult to run Name the Trade on people you meet during outreach.
Where's the evidence? Okay, show me the evidence. If you're going to claim this, then where's the evidence for this? This is just a bullshit claim.
Part of the confusion comes because meat eaters don't understand what the vegan is looking for. What counts as a trait?
What do you mean what counts as a trait? You're asking them what they value. That's just a bullshit fucking argument.
size, shape, intelligence, species. Trait is defined as a distinguishing quality, characteristic, or a genetically determined characteristic.
Oh my god.
She's right about people being stupid. I saw your debates last night. Have you considered dumbing down your arguments into terms a small child could understand? The schmoes you talk to really don't understand a lot of the concepts you mention. Okay, so then a 6-minute twerk would be $100? 7,777,777,777.
Yeah, basically, like, again, you can always give me a longer song to twerk to, so if you want to get more value out of the twerk. But thanks for the donation, even though. There's no dumbing down my argument. If I dumb down my argument, it would be a different argument. You can't dumb these things down. Thanks for the donation, though, Bloopity.
Using the second definition, we can clearly see that species should count as an acceptable trait, but the vegan will reject that as not morally relevant.
No! She literally doesn't understand how to do the name the trait dialogue. If you're, like, there's two ways to go about this. You could argue that species is a category and not a trait. That's a different thing. But you just run down the fucking dialogue tree. You don't reject any fucking trait. You could maybe argue it's a category and not a trait, but you run down the dialogue tree, and the dialogue tree, if you mention the trait of species, would just be... Yeah, so if you run down the dialogue tree with the trait species, you'd just ask, would you be in favor of killing people if you found out that they weren't actually part of the human species? So if we did a genetic test, say, on black people, and it turned out all black people weren't technically part of the human species, you'd be in favor of killing all black people. You don't just say, oh no, that trait doesn't count. She literally doesn't understand the name of the trait argument.
Relevant. Who gets to decide which traits are morally relevant? I personally don't believe species is morally relevant. That's part of why I'm vegan, but...
Well, that's just your belief. You're not right or wrong about that. If somebody believes it is morally relevant, then you run the fucking reductio, and then they either have to fucking bite the bullet and take away human rights, or they have to accept that they need to grant rights to animals. She literally does not understand how name the trait works, and then she's arguing that it's not effective.
Meat eaters do think species is morally relevant. That's why they're not vegan.
I'm asking you, what is the morally substantive difference between a human and an animal, where it's okay to violate an animal's rights, but it's not okay to violate a human's rights? And you've given me a few answers, but you keep walking back your claims.
Yeah, look, I don't have an answer because I don't fully understand the question. I thought my answer was...
So what clarifies as a morally substantial, whatever the rest of that was?
You can tell a racist that the color of someone's skin is arbitrary, but they don't see it as arbitrary. That's why they're racist.
Someone can define what they consider moral as any fucking thing they want.
During activism, you don't have much time. Most people will grant...
That literally just answered her question. So why is she saying this?
You 15 to 20 minutes, and then you're never going to see them again. Explaining the premise of Name the Trait and correcting them along the way is a waste.
There's no explaining the premise. There's no premise to explain. You're asking them about what their moral values are and why they think it's okay to kill animals and not humans. You don't have to explain anything. There's no explaining this. Like, why would you have to explain the premise of the fucking argument?
Of time. If you're not sure how to use your time during outreach effectively, check out this handy page from Pax Fauna where they tell you which points need to be addressed. Every second counts. Name the Trait usually devolves into insane hypotheticals. I understand that hypotheticals have value in the context of debates. They're an excellent way to test someone's logical consistency and shine light on issues in an objective way. However, it's important to talk about whether these hypotheticals are in good taste or bad taste, whether they're effective or off-putting. People
She's saying we shouldn't run reductios or use certain hypotheticals because it might make us be viewed in a negative light. Okay, well, maybe you just shouldn't do vegan activism, period, because you might be viewed in a negative light. This isn't a fucking popularity contest. You're trying to make good, compelling fucking arguments. Who cares if anybody fucking likes you? If you make a good argument, then if they're just a fucking intelligent and intellectually honest person, they'll go vegan, or they'll just accept that they're a shitty person and they'll keep eating meat. No one is going to go vegan just because they like you.
People already hate vegans, so we have to try extra hard to get them to take us seriously. When we talk about eating mentally challenged children, we're not making ourselves look better.
Okay, stupid, when you run the name the trait reductio and they name the trait as intelligence, they're the one making the fucking argument based off of their own moral principles that it's okay to fucking murder mentally disabled children. Not us. That's their position.
Looks like the flock has learned well.
Yes, indeed. You have taught us all well, Sam. Appreciate the donation. So, like, what the fuck is she talking about? That's their position, not yours. That's one of the stupidest things you could possibly fucking say.
We're making ourselves look like out-of-touch assholes. When someone leaves a conversation with me on the street, I don't want them going home to their partner to tell them that they got into a conversation with a vegan where the vegan was asking them if it was okay to Holocaust.
They're the ones who said that. You're the one saying that their beliefs lead to that conclusion. Oh my god, what a fucking moron.
Mentally challenged children. I want them to say that they've had an honest, difficult discussion about the harm they've inadvertently created through their actions. I want them to say that they now understand why vegans fight so hard for animal rights. I want them to feel seen and heard and like I was listening to their points and not trying to box them into a position that I could easily destroy.
You're supposed to defeat their arguments! That's the fucking point! What the fuck are you talking about? What, we're supposed to be like Earthling Ed and just let them yap about fucking bullshit and never make a fucking argument? Well, I wanted to make sure they felt like they were heard. I don't give a fuck what stupid ideas come to somebody's fucking head. I care about animal activism, and if they have an argument against animal activism, I will absolutely fucking destroy them and do everything I can to fucking publicly embarrass them. Oh my god, these like pick-me fucking vegans. Stupid thing gonna go. Here we go.
I feel frustrated when I see someone discussing space aliens while I'm thinking about the real suffering of actual animals here on Earth.
We're debating moral principles, jackass. If you're gonna debate somebody's moral principles, yes, you have to use hypotheticals, and sometimes those hypotheticals might be things like aliens if the trait they name is something like species.
Pigs are screaming in gas chambers while they're burned alive from the inside.
Okay, this is such a disingenuous, uncharitable way of interpreting this. You're talking about space aliens? I do vegan activism! I do vegan activism better than you because you talk about space aliens! Like, do you really think that's what's fucking going on? Okay, that, like, please tell me, if somebody says the reason it's okay to kill animals and not human beings is because the only thing that matters to them is species, please fucking tell me the best way to fucking go about demonstrating to them that that leads to horrible atrocities, that sort of thinking. Like, the best way I've been able to come up with is using an analogy like space aliens, like a highly intelligent alien species that are similar to human beings, like Vulcans from Star Trek. If they actually believe in that moral principle, that it's okay to just fucking holocaust somebody because, or holocaust a species just because they're not human, that would lead to them being okay with holocausting, like, Vulcans from Star Trek. What other fucking way is more effective than that, than in demonstrating that that idea could lead to horrible, horrible atrocities? Please tell me. Like, she keeps making these incredibly uncharitable fucking claims about things like the hypotheticals we use, and then she doesn't propose anything better. Like, fuck you. If you were arguing with these same fucking people, you would bring up those same hypotheticals because I think you know that that is the most effective way to argue those fucking points. You're just so full of shit, it's unreal. Thanks for the donation, even though.
Side out, and we're talking about Vulcans? Really? Let's focus on getting non-vegans to see that their real actions have real consequences. The animals already don't feel real to non-vegans, but by speaking up about this issue...
Yeah, I'm gonna challenge her to debate. Care to debate me on the effectiveness of name the trait? There are a few points you made specifically that I'd like to argue against, including that we have to reject certain... We have to reject the validity of certain traits, and that using hypotheticals like space aliens are less effective than using real-world examples. This was so stupid. She didn't understand what name the trait is, and, like, she just made incredibly dumb uncharitable fucking claims. Super fucking annoying when people do that. I'm gonna email her too. Just gonna copy.
Zerka documentary from friend of the show Turkey Tom.
Might watch that later, maybe, but we'll see. Thanks for the donation, Mr. Balls.
So is the whole point of NTT to prove an inconsistency and or proving that beliefs result in a human death? Does that then help someone go vegan in order to be consistent? What if the person doesn't care that they're inconsistent or taking away rights?
Yeah, so the point of Name the Trade is to prove that either their moral beliefs would lead to humans being killed, or they would have to acknowledge that animals should have human rights. And if they're inconsistent, then you can just prove their moral system is unreasonable and doesn't make any sense. And if they're going to claim they don't care about consistency again, well, that's just obviously a self-admittedly unreasonable, illogical position. So what are you going to do? If somebody doesn't care about something, you can't make them care. But thanks for the donation. Frank Tefano is sexy. He's not, but whatever.
We can show them that this is a serious issue that needs significant action. Crazy hypotheticals trivialize the vegan message, and it's time to move on. Thank you for watching. Make sure to hit that like button. And
What a fucking clown. You want to bet she's going to run from a debate against me? I can almost guarantee you she's not going to fucking debate. That really fucking triggered me, that hypotheticals trivialize the vegan message. How the fuck is that the case? Like, holy shit. Just a lot of nonsense claims that she couldn't fucking back up or support. Fuck me. Everything's fucking annoying. Alright, let's get our frustration out with a very aggressive twerk. Hey, cat.
Did you see the clip of Trump mocking Nancy Pelosi's husband?